if you've ever spent any real time in social media groups for the carnivore diet, especially on Facebook, it seems to be a huge problem. You will see some terrible advice given to people. Usually, it all comes down to really one bit of advice, and it comes from a question. And the question is always this: am I allowed to eat X on the carnivore diet? And if you're doing keto, you've probably seen this too. The What is X? X is usually comes in the form of dairy or fruit or honey or some other thing that is by most common definitions, a whole food, and by most common definitions is generally considered to be healthy. Now, I'm not weighing in here so much on the fruit or honey question. That's not really of interest to me here. Maybe someday I will. That's not what I'm talking about. The advice usually comes down to this when the question is asked, am I allowed to eat fruit or honey or whatever on the carnivore diet? And the advice is, you're an adult, you can eat whatever you want. Okay. That could easily be then, am I allowed to eat Twinkies on the carnivore diet? And that answer applies. Now, this answer is terrible. This advice is terrible because for a couple of reasons here. First, usually people go asking questions in social media groups about this diet or any other diet because they want to know how to do the diet according to the diet plan. This would be true if we were talking about the South Beach diet, classic calories in, calories out diet, an intermittent fasting group. If anything, people come to these groups asking questions on how to do the diet in the way most commonly thought to be the classic way to do the diet. Yet, for whatever reason, carnivore and I suspect keto groups too have the most what I call saboteurs in them. These are people who, for whatever reason, come into these groups, don't keep to the diet, don't keep to anything that competes with the diet. This, we'll say fruit and honey here, because I personally don't believe eating fruit and honey is part of a carnivore diet. That's part of Dr. Saladino's animal-based diet. But I'm not going to argue the point with people. If you're eating fruit and honey and you're achieving the optimum results you want to, that's your business. I just like calling things what they are to avoid this kind of confusion. But the people doing this aren't consuming the animal or consuming the fruit and honey either. That's not them. For whatever reason, you get people who come into these groups and want to sabotage people. And they don't do it by coming in and posting pictures of, fudge cake or sushi rolls or pizza or nachos or whatever your carby processed food vice was before you came to, a whole foods diet of any kind. It's usually by giving advice that at the core of it will not work for most people. So, when they say you can eat whatever you want, you're an adult. Yes, that's true. I right now could choose to not go to the gym right after I record this video. I could instead choose to go hit the McDonald's drive-thru, get a cheeseburger. Why would I want to do that? I don't know. It doesn't sound good. I have no cravings for that. But I could do that because I'm an adult. I would destroy my diet. I would torpedo my diet, at least, or at least I would fall off the horse. And frequently when people fall off the horse on the diet, what happens? They don't have one little instance of eating something they shouldn't have. They go on benders. We all have seen it. It's happened to some of us. One day off, one meal off turns into 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. What happens? Then there comes the mental health anguish that goes with it. Then comes the self-doubt, maybe the destruction of the diet itself. It's terrible advice. People give it on purpose. Know something here. If you're in a social media group and you see, if you're in, any kind of zero carb, carnivore, or keto group, and someone asks, hey, is this a good food item for this diet? They're asking how to do the diet correctly at the most basic level. And while one size doesn't usually fit all, in the carnivore world space, at least, what we see is that most people do better by spending at least some time, the 90-day minimum, doing the triple B&E. beef, butter, bacon, eggs, and some variation of that. Like I can't eat egg whites. I have a mild allergy to them. They upset my stomach and make me gassy and all sorts of other fun things. So I don't eat those. But once in a while, I'll have some egg yolks. That would be my version of B, and E. But most people do well staying there for at least some time. And then they can choose to add in some other carnivore things or go stricter towards the lion diet side of things where they're just eating beef and salt. Those are all acceptable general answers, but people, for whatever reason, want to go in and tell people how to essentially derail themselves. And I almost think it's ideological here. Like this, people get weirdly ideological about diets. It's why I cover, weird vegan attempts to make fake meat and then try to use the power of the state or big business to get you to eat them. It's because for whatever reason, they have like an ideological concern here. I don't care what other people eat. I really, really don't. If you want to be a vegan, knock yourself out. Just don't try to coerce me in some way or another into doing it. And the same is true, really, when you're trying to torpedo someone's diet, because at that point, you're doing it in a dishonest way to try to take someone's diet down with who knows what kind of health consequences. How many of you in the comments came to the carnivore diet out of desperation? You were desperate. You said to yourself, I have tried literally everything. Nothing else has controlled the Hashimoto's or the eczema that you have, or the severe joint pain, or the depression, or or you tried everything to lose the body fat, and you just, for whatever reason, lack the willpower to meticulously count calories and track everything, and so carnivore was your last best desperate hope. I think there's something insidious, something kind of evil when someone goes in to groups where it's pretty clear. You spend 5 minutes reading posts in these groups, and what do you see? You see people who are clearly desperate, who have found success in a place where they found no success prior, and then trying to torpedo that. Why would you do that? There is something evil about that. We're talking for people here, life-saving changes that they made, a life-saving approach that is really, at the end of the day, not that hard. The carnivore diet's the easiest thing. I'm right now in what I call a low willpower spot with my carnivore diet. Low willpower meaning I have said before I have to track to lose the body fat that I want. And right now I'm just burned out of it. I'm not necessarily eating till comfortably stuffed because that's not usually a success strategy for me either. But I'm being careful, but I'm also not worrying about it. I have enough willpower not to eat, things I shouldn't eat. But I've hit a, sort of a weird, like stress-induced headspace where in years past, this diet may have fallen apart. Sticking carnivore now, but I'm not, being as meticulous as before. And so I'm in sort of a maintenance and, muscle mass building phase, which is fine. It happens to everybody, I think. But if I'd had that negative external pressure, if I'd gone into some social media group and said, hey, I'm having trouble here. The mindset thing's not working for me right now. What do I do? Is it okay if I do X? And some, people who think that carnivore diet is the worst thing in the world because of the environment or because of cardiovascular things or, fill in the blank mainstream political or mainstream medical advice. They came in and gave me literally the opposite of, hey, why don't you just go do this? It's easier. It could have had really bad consequences for me. I know if I went to 10 grams of carbs a day from plant material, let's say the cleanest ultra low carb version of keto you can name, I would have problems. I would start probably getting bloated. I would put on a few pounds of water weight. And then afterwards, at some point, I would start getting tempted by all those stupid keto treats, which is the whole reason I stopped doing ketogenic diets in the begin with, was all the stupid keto treats that are out there. At some point, I get tempted by them and my willpower would give in, even though they don't look tempting at all. When, if I eat 14 meals in a 7-day period, 13 of them are beef with maybe a little bacon or butter on the side. They don't look tempting to me at all. But for whatever reason, add in those other things, I start running into problems. That's my reason. Other people have different reasons. So don't go into groups trying to sabotage them. It really is wicked. And honestly, you have better things to do with your time than purposely give people bad advice. Would you do that if somebody was trying to learn how to drive? Would you do that if somebody was trying to apply for a job and were having no luck? Would you give them purposely bad advice for how to apply for a job? I doubt it. I doubt it. So why with people's nutrition, which literally impacts not only their quality of life, but their very existence itself? I want to know a good excuse for doing that because I've never seen one. Let me know in the comments if you've seen this kind of behavior and what you do when you see it, because I'm very curious. And like and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help channels like this grow. It's just sharing this on social media. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for your time.